What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. This is the End to End NBA podcast, episode 16, and we got some stuff to get into right away. First off, a huge welcome back. Welcome back, PG-13, Paul George. So great to have you back in the league. We missed you. We missed that silky smooth finish and the ability to create space on your own, the ability to create space for others. Do not let this guy take three-pointers stepping in from the top of the three-point line, or he is going to destroy you. And I hope that's a good enough welcome back. He did say that having two new shoulders is definitely going to help him, and I don't think that can be understated. Moving into it further, I mean, he's not going to keep this up with the numbers. He'll probably regress to the mean a little bit. Well, at the same time, who knows? You know, he could just be poised to pick up where he left off before he started to digress with the injuries in OKC last year. He is quite possibly top 5 when he's right, especially at this point in his career. I think he knows exactly what his strengths are, and the guy can get his shot whenever he wants, wherever he wants, and it's just I guess this is my point with what it made with Paul George being out just for a little bit here. We really forget quickly as fans, as just folks around the league. I do think there is a tendency to forget the impact that the guys have when they're out, and then I'm going to cop to it too, and just looking at the team without the caveat of, well, they don't have him back yet. And this can be said the same for a team maybe like New Orleans with Zion, a team like Phoenix who doesn't have Ayton, which we'll get to later, but I think that's actually the reverse with Ayton. And then to this point exactly, the Clippers without Paul George. They did lose that first game that he was back, but that was kind of I don't really know what you can say about that game about both teams, because New Orleans and LA were both sitting guys and guys were out, and it was just a kind of like a G League game with Paul George in it. A little odd. But then you saw with almost full force the Clippers against the Hawks, and they put up 150 points on them. Now, it's against any NBA team. That is no easy feat. So pretty much my point is, don't forget about guys when they're out. Don't forget about the impact that they bring. Be excited about the returns of these players, i.e. Gordon Hayward when he comes back to Boston, De'Aaron Fox and Bagley, respectively, to the Kings. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings make a late season push if they get both those guys back. So just, keep your excitement levels and keep your hope, because when you're missing a guy, it can't be understated the impact that he has when he comes back. So there's my little welcome back spiel for Paul George. It's mostly just kind of a sob story, love story for Paul George. By the way, let's just run through this here. First game back, 33 points on 17 shots in just 24 minutes, and you just about did the same last night in game 2. So MVP on the horizon. At least he will be in the talks for that. Let's move into the next welcome back. A little bit of a shadowed welcome back here. Carmelo Anthony. He's back. For better or worse, he is back, and he is with the Portland Trail Blazers here on the West Coast, a floundering team that is making a move not even a quarter of the way into the season, and I don't think anybody is looking at this move like Carmelo is going to come in here and be some kind of savior of any kind, because we can't forget that he has been out of the league now for almost a full season at the ripe old age of 34 to 35 in that time span. And we also can't forget, like I was saying, that this is an early season acquisition from a team that is kind of reeling a little bit after losing some key pieces and losing some key pieces in the offseason and losing some key pieces to injury now. And I don't know if they knew that they were behind the 8 ball when it came to the 4 entering the season, or if it's just now hit them with the injury losses, because they should have known before that this was going to happen. They were one big injury away from looking like this and not being able to defend and not being able to rebound. And that's not even their biggest problem. And that's kind of what leads me into this, is that they are dead last in assists. They don't move the ball. And it's just adding a guy like this, another kind of ball stopper, when you're not assisting and you're not sharing the ball, it's a bit of a head scratcher. And then there's always the big question is the defensive effort. Now, if they're only planning on using him 20 minutes a game, maybe less, I like it then, because maybe he gets into a groove by the end of the season and you're sitting there at the 7th and 8th seed. And the Blazers are always pesky, but this is not some kind of move that's going to put you, it's going to vault you into the top 4 in the West. Like, it's not going to happen. And you're without Zach Collins for a while now. It's all unguaranteed. I get it. But ultimately, this is what we should do is, when we look at this is exactly what we all think it's going to be. And it's if Melo can provide good spot up shooting, that's all we should expect. We should expect nothing else. And I read an article that's kind of how it should be. At this point, Melo's just he still wants to play ball, but what we should remember most is his tremendous front half of his career, and that he's one of the best scorers and jump shooters that we've ever seen. And the rest can kind of be ancillary, and my hope is that this is a better check mark in this kind of end of his legacy kind of thing, because he's a great scorer. The effort, we're always going to have players like that. This just came to me, a cross sport comp. Is Carmelo Anthony the Manny Ramirez of basketball? Just in the regards of like, you're never going to see him run out, a ground ball out to first. Like, he's not doing that. Melo is not racing up the court. He's not really wowing you with massive athleticism or blocks or tremendous rebounds. Like, he is going to score. He is going to score a lot, but he also needs to take a lot of shots to do it, especially now. So just a little fun comp there, but ultimately what he has to replace is Mo Harkless. 27% from 3. I think he can do that. 67% from the free throw line. I think he's fine there. Again, to circle back to the athleticism, that's what's not replaceable, is the hustle plays you get from a guy like Harkless. And then I guess what he really has to come closer to is Al-Farouq Aminu, who had a 56% true field goal percentage, which Melo struggles to get to, but he might be able to shoot a little bit better than Aminu's 34% from 3. And if you can just have a spot-up guy out there to help alleviate some of the pressure and open the floor up a little bit for Dame and CJ, then you might have something here. It's going to be really interesting to see how engaged we get of an engaged Carmelo Anthony we get. And then if Nurkic comes back, when he comes back, if he comes back even remotely in the same capacity, you could really open up the floor here, and it could work. It really could. Again, it's always about everybody buying in, especially Melo himself. And I guess we'll see. My faith level, if we're going to put a percentage on it, my faith level is at about 25% for this to, I guess, help the Blazers and push them into the green after they've been trending down big time in the last couple of games. So now that we've welcomed back some of our favorite players known to the NBA, really. I mean, those are two big names. It's just going to be fun. This year, man, you just keep going back to it. It's going to be one of the best years, if not already one of the best years. I have watched so much Lakers basketball, so much Clippers basketball. That 7 o'clock slate has been the best it's been in quite some time. I never thought I'd be excited for Hawks Lakers, especially not last year. And now we're here, so we've arrived. And Carmelo and Paul George on the come are just a cherry on top. Hey, thanks for checking out the End to End podcast. Just want to give a shout out to anybody who's subscribed, rated, reviewed, all that good stuff. It's a whole lot of fun, and I'm really glad you're here with me, enjoying it and enjoying this NBA season. Get League Pass and subscribe to the End to End podcast, and you're set. All your NBA needs will be fulfilled. Anyway, moving into our next topic here, I was going to do my three surprise teams for better or worse, but I thought that was, I don't know, we might do that at some point. But I drew up a list last night, kind of a way too early tiers list of the teams in the NBA, putting them into, if we just stop the tape now and we started the playoffs now, or not even started the playoffs now, just like we got a category of championship contenders, then another category of what I've got is, let's just go through it here. Let's just go through it. Number one tier, stay the course and you're there. Number 2, missing a truth, as in just missing a part of your team that makes it complete. And I'm going to go ahead and there's the bus, there's the Rockets, they're underneath it. The Rockets are missing defense and ball movement. So I guess they're missing 2 truths really, but something like that. Number 3, a player away and a year away. So a combo of missing a couple of things. And then 4, just kind of bottom feeders, fun teams that don't stand a chance, that aren't going to do much but scratch at the heels of these top teams. So there's the construct. Let's get into it. Let's start from the bottom to the top. The last couple of lists or things I've done, I've started from the top to the bottom. And I've come to realize it's a little anticlimactic. So I apologize for those prior lists, but we're getting there. So our bottom feeders. This is as of now. It's not if the playoffs started today, but it sort of is at the same time. Because there's some teams that I think will get right. Kind of like the Sacramento Kings, the Portland Trail Blazers. But as it stands, who's 1 through 8 in the East and the West, that's how this was the list was compiled. So your bottom feeders in the 4th tier of the way too early tiers list on the End to End podcast. The Timberwolves, the Phoenix Suns, and the Orlando Magic. The Magic, I probably should have put them at 3, but I do feel like there's some shuffling of the deck that needs to be done with a possible Aaron Gordon trade, or maybe even moving off of Mo Bamba really fast. Something there needs to be done to kind of keep that team relevant, or just at least something to kickstart the offense, because they're struggling big time in that area. They're playing good defense, middle of the pack, but there's just no spark. And sometimes you've got to look at the pieces that you have, and maybe they don't fit as well together as you thought they would. So I do like the rumblings that there's some interest in acquiring DeMar DeRozan. You could see possibly Aaron Gordon going to San Antonio for DeRozan, and I like that. I like that. That's something to get into at a different time, but on the surface, picking up DeRozan seems like a move that they need. They need a go-to scorer, and they just don't have that. So enough about the Magic. T-Wolves, Suns, strong starts. Stronger for the Suns, of course. They're shooting the lights out. Their rebounding numbers are atrocious. They are just on an epic shooting spree right now, top 5 in the league in a lot of those categories, which kind of aims towards unsustainable across an 82-game season, and especially into a playoff push. I don't know if they have the legitimate shooters that can carry that fire that far. When it comes to the T-Wolves, man, I was going to spend a whole segment on just like eating crow when it comes to the Andrew Wiggins thing, because right now, again, it's a sustainability thing, but I do think that the way that Saunders has turned that offense into what it is, it gives Wiggins a lot more flexibility to be himself and to be the best version of himself. And holy hell, like he could really flip what I said in the other podcast a few episodes ago about he could be most improved, like hands down right now. If we ended the season, I think it's got to be him. It's got to be Wiggins. It's ridiculous what he's doing and the confidence in which he's doing it with. With that being said, though, there are a few players short. They can't hang with some of the big boys. They can't even hang with some of the underdog teams, losing a few too many games to teams out west. And there's only so much that Cat and Wiggins can do on their own. They need a point guard, so they're a lot of pieces away from jumping into the third tier. And then really quick to circle back to Phoenix, they're getting Ayton back, at some point, about 20 games here, 20 games. I don't know if that's good or bad at this point. He might be somebody that we see get moved off of within the span of a rookie contract or not get extended. I didn't understand when, and I still don't understand now, because you see when he's gone, the way that it opens up the floor for Booker and these other guys. If some of these teams, they don't need that 5 that they think they need. And it's really even being shown in Boston that you don't need that 5. If you've got killers on the wings and guys that are willing to attack and dribble, drive, and penetrate and kick out, and you got guys that can finish at the rim and other guys that can pick it up when the ball gets kicked back out, like, you can win that way right now. And I think the Suns need to open their eyes here and see what they've got going without Ayton on the floor. So into the third tier, we're going to go a player away plus a year away. So it's a combination of both. You need that player, and we'll just start with the Pacers, who it's Victor Oladipo plus another year of adding him into the mix with Brogdon, and then kind of the unsuredness of what you're going to do with the Turner Sabonis saga and how you're going to work that out. So the Pacers are kind of like, I guess it's the same. The Pacers and Nets. Pacers will get Oladipo back at some point this year. Him being 100% even at game 82 is probably a far cry. And then the Nets with missing KD, so your KD plus the offseason, there's your player plus a year kind of idea. And then the third team into this is going to be the Dallas Mavericks, who I think it's going to be awesome. I think they have a huge chance to make the playoffs. Luka Doncic is forcing us to put him in the top 10 because the guy is a guaranteed 25-plus point scorer a game, probably for the rest of his career. It doesn't matter what night it is. It doesn't matter who he's going against. The guy's going to find his way to 25 points and close to a triple-double. He's should have been number 1. The Suns should have drafted him and figured out what to do after that with Booker or something. Like, the fact that he was even traded it's mind it's to quote the great Ricky Bobby, it's mind boggling. Like I cannot understand it, and the phrase doesn't make any sense either. But that being said, they're one bench guy, they're one six man. There's something missing there that they're not going to compete. They can't win enough games or be the better team in a best of 7 series without one other guy. They just need something else, a true supporting cast member, and I don't know where that comes from. They're kind of landlocked with cap flexibility and just the assets that they do have. It's yet to be seen how creative they could get with something, but if they could figure something out and get somebody in there, and I off the top of my head, I can't really think of who that person would be, but somebody like a Bogdanovich from Sacramento, how I mentioned him to LA in the last one, like some other kind of solid 3-point shooter, but maybe it's also down low. Maybe it's somebody kind of a stretch 4. Maybe it's a Tristan Thompson buyout market kind of thing, or somebody like that. And I don't think it's coming this year. I think what we'll see is next year for sure for these up-and-coming Mavericks. But, man, you want to talk about an exciting team, and Mark Cuban can go to bed at night knowing that he has Luka Doncic, and he's probably going to keep him for a while. Luka seems like a homer for sure, a guy that wants to stick around. And when you go to a franchise that had Dirk Nowitzki, who stayed with the team his entire career, like the pressure's on for you to do the same just a bit. But anyway, off of the Mavericks and into the second tier, missing a truth. This is the jam-packed 6 teams in this. You got the Rockets, Nuggets, Heat, Raptors, Jazz, 76ers. Let's rattle through them here. The Rockets, missing defense, missing ball movement. The Nuggets, too much of a good thing. The amount of players that they have, it feels like they're having trouble establishing lineups from front to back, and it's kind of to their detriment. Also, I don't know if Jamal Murray is a true max point guard. And also, so I guess their truth, what they're missing though, is it's in now. See, sometimes I get ahead of myself and you think these things out and then it pops back up. I was going to say that clutch, end of game kind of stuff. Jokic has provided that, but then there's times that he doesn't. And I just wonder if he's the guy that you want in the clutch. And that might be something for another podcast, to take a look at how good he is in those closing minutes. And he might prove me wrong here, because as I think about it, I have seen him make the right play almost every single time. So maybe the Nuggets do deserve to be in that number 1 tier, and we'll take a look at it when we visit this tier class again. Let's move into the Heat. The Heat, I really think, are missing offense. They can stifle a lot of teams on the defensive end, and that's great. I just don't think they've got a well-rounded offensive attack. I think it comes in waves. It's very streaky, and that's no way. That's not going to win you a championship. They'll be feisty, a little above feisty, but that's about it. I don't think they'll get to that number 1 tier at all this year. The Raptors, again, kind of maybe too shallow. This start has been really great, but you're starting to see as the season progresses that they can be taken advantage of with that second unit. As good as they can be, they are also streaky, and teams are, once Pascal's off the court, they can be head for some easy buckets. And it's that second unit that's what's really troublesome about the Raptors. Not that anybody was picking them to get to the finals or even compete for that. The last 2, we'll go Utah Jazz here. I think they're just a few games away really from being in that number 1 tier. I think it's just cohesion and figuring out what they want to do with what they have. So that's something that's going to be figured out pretty quick. I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks, they'll be joining that tier 1 almost without a doubt. I feel like with the amount of talent and the amount of depth they have, if they can't figure it out, that's a bummer, especially just with the kind of guys and the kind of team that they are building. They should be able to figure this out pretty quick. And then we go to the 76ers, who were my pick to win it all. They're my ride or die. I'm going to stick with it. But as of right now, I got them in the second tier. They got to figure it out on the offensive end. Like, where does it start and where does it end? Is the offense going through Joel? Is it going through Ben? I think it's too confused, and there's so many things going on, and you see it at the end of games still. It looks like last season where nobody knows where's the play. And it really falls back to, with Simmons with the ball in his hands, he doesn't possess the threat of scoring, and that makes that puts a huge, I don't even know what you call it. It's just, if he's bringing the ball up, you know where the ball is going to end up eventually if you're on the defensive end, and so you can sag off of Ben and beg him to drive the ball and meet the defense in the paint. And you just see a lot of doubling and successful doubling going on by the opposing teams, forcing turnovers, and just a lot of confusion on the 76ers end. That having Al Horford is great, but having him doesn't solve that problem completely. I really think they're a point guard away. And I think there's some kind of trade away. There's something there in the trade market for the 76ers and possibly firing Brett Brown, because I don't think he knows what to do with these guys. And it's unfortunate because I like Brett, but I just don't see it working. It's because it's not working. You have one of the most talented teams in the league, and you can't beat the Thunder on Saturday night, last night. Like, to me, that was embarrassing, and you should have been able to handle that team, especially going into overtime. It worries me. I don't know if they're going to get to that number one tier. I just, unless they make a move, there's not enough there right now. As you can tell, I'm a little bit nervous and flustered when I talk about the 76ers, because I really had a lot of faith in them, and right now it just looks exactly like it did last year at the end of the year and in the playoffs, where everybody's looking at everybody else because they don't have a guy to distribute, and they don't have a true decision maker that can get guys in the right spot. So that's where I'll end that on the 76ers. I was having trouble forming my idea in totality about them. So we'll see if they can get to that first tier. So here we go. The number one tier, stay the course, and you're there. We'll just start. Let's go with the Lakers. We'll start with the Lakers. The defense. If the defense holds like it has been, they will be in every single game from here on out. It will be a 10-point or under loss, or the opposite, a win, if they can play the defense that they're playing right now. I do think it's 100% sustainable. I'm going to push back on everybody that's hating on Dwight. I know it's a little scary to buy into him, but I think he's good. I think he's ready. I think this is going to be here all season. And like I've been saying, him and you get what you can out of him. You get every little bit out of JaVale when he's in there. You just spot play him and you do what you're doing. I love the way they're doing it, playing him and using his minutes, and just maybe look for one more move to solidify a backcourt in that second unit, or even that first unit, to that effect. Like, I bounced around the idea of trading Kuz to maybe the Sacramento Kings. Aaron Gordon in Orlando doesn't entice me as much, but there are some guys out there to be had. There's also the buyout market coming up. Could we see? I think ultimately we do see Iggy get to LA. I think after this whole odd holdout thing and him not playing for Memphis, I think ultimately they are going to let him go somewhere, and it's just not worth holding on to him if you're Memphis. Okay, so moving into the next guy, the other LA team, the Clippers. They just got Paul George back. Paul George looks fantastic. Now Kawhi can take his rest days, and you're probably just fine. You'll lose a game here and there. It's the regular season. It doesn't matter. Get top two. they've got all that written all over them. Just stay the course, keep doing what you're doing. Maybe bring the defense a little more full circle, especially in that second unit. But other than that, I think they're going to be poised to get into the playoffs and tear through the first couple of rounds. And then we're going to have ourselves a Donnybrook come the Western Conference Finals. Over to the East, I guess, here on the top tier, stay the course, and you're there. The Celtics, they have been my dark horse from day one. They're just becoming faster and stronger of a dark horse. That Kemba signing, you get exactly what you need from that guy. And then you're seeing this wing barrage from them, and nobody can handle it. That's just all there is to it. They're going to score. The volume of attacks on the basket, but also the capability of hitting threes from outside. They don't really need a 5. They need a guy that can hold it down and grab rebounds. But like, it's just a tenacity to this team in the attack mode that they are in constantly. And they pull people out to drive in, and then vice versa on the kick. And it just looks great. And it's proving to be great. They got the Kings today. It's going to be, I think, a walkthrough show for them here on this one, even though they kind of struggled against Golden State. But it's the NBA. Guys, you just never know what's going on. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Celtics in that top tier. And then last but not least, the Milwaukee Bucks, who Giannis is reminding us time and time again that he is the best athlete, the most unstoppable player in the league right now. And yes, I will say that he is more unstoppable than LeBron. Does that make him a better player? I don't think so. He's not putting other guys in positions like LeBron can. He doesn't understand as well as LeBron does. So that's not what I'm saying. He just is the most unstoppable force in the league. He is Shaq. He's the closest thing I think we've had to Shaq in a really long time. But he can shoot a little bit, and seeing that 3-point jumper come out is it helps him a lot. It makes people, if you have to come out on him, he's going to get around you before you can blink an eye. And then, I will stick to the point though here. It's they're the first out of this top tier for sure, because I don't see it with the rest of the team. Now you're Les Middleton for a little bit. There's only so much a guy like Ilyasova Lopez is still playing pretty lights out for his age and where he's at in his career. He's very impressive, but around the perimeter of that team, I don't see it, and I think ultimately they'll be flat in that first or second round. But as of right now, they are in that top tier. So that is your way too early tiers list, about 10, 11 games into the NBA season. We've just crossed the halfway point, which is my cue to get out of here. Thank you so much for listening. Rate, review, subscribe. This will be live on Apple Podcasts the moment it goes up. For the rest of you, Stitcher, Spotify, and everywhere in between, give it an hour or so, and those lovely people will put that up into the airwaves. We will have a guest most likely next week or the week after that. Some other announcements to be made. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm your host, Joe Golden. This has been the End-to-End NBA Podcast. Y'all take care.